Hello, all. This is And Why. You are listening to the Bible reading series and potentially watching. Please watch the first, at least for the disclaimer. But secondly, before I get into this one, I want to reiterate I am not by any means a professional. I am just attempting to explore and invite you to this exploration. So we're going to start Genesis 18, King James Version today, and we're going to have some commentary afterwards. But first, start with the Lord's Prayer, Matthew 6, 9 through 13, King James Version. After this manner, therefore, pray ye, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth, as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. Genesis 18. Birth of Isaac promised. And the Lord appeared unto him in the plains of Mamre, and he sat in the tent door in the heat of the day. And he lift up his eyes and looked, and lo, 3 men stood by him, and when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the tent door, and bowed himself toward the ground, and said, My Lord, if now I have found favor in thy sight, pass not away, I pray thee, from thy servant. Let a little water, I pray you, be fetched, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. And I will fetch a morsel of bread, and comfort ye your hearts. After that ye shall pass on. For therefore are ye come to your servant. And they said, So do as thou hast said. And Abram hastened into the tent unto Sarah, and said, Make ready quickly 3 measures of fine meal, knead it, and make cakes upon the hearth. And Abram ran unto the herd, and fetched a calf tender and good, and gave it unto a young man, and he hastened to dress it. And he took butter and milk and the calf which he had dressed, and set it before them. And he stood by them under the tree, and they did eat. They said unto him, Where is Sarah thy wife? And he said, Behold, in the tent. And he said, I will certainly return unto thee according to the time of life, and lo, Sarah thy wife shall have a son. And Sarah heard it in the tent door, which was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old and well stricken in age, and ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of women. Therefore Sarah laughed within herself, saying, After I have waxed old, shall I have pleasure, my Lord being old also? And the Lord said unto Abraham, Wherefore did Sarah laugh, saying, Shall I of a surety bear a child, which am old? Is anything too hard for the Lord? At the time appointed I will return unto thee according to the time of life, and Sarah shall have a son. Then Sarah denied, saying, I laughed not, for she was afraid. And he said, Nay, but thou didst laugh. And the men rose up from thence, and looked toward Sodom, and Abraham went with them to bring them on the way. And the Lord said, Shall I hide from Abraham the thing which I do? Seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I know him, that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of the Lord, to do justice and judgment, that the Lord may bring upon Abraham that which he hath spoken of him. And the Lord said, Because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous, I will go down now, and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which is come unto me, and if not, I will know. And the men turned their faces from thence, and went toward Sodom, but Abraham stood yet before the Lord. And Abraham drew near, and said, Wilt thou also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Peradventure there be 50 righteous within the city. Wilt thou also destroy, and not spare the place for the 50 righteous that are therein? That be far from thee to do after this manner, to slay the righteous with the wicked, and that the righteous should be as the wicked, that be far from thee. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? And the Lord said, If I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare all the place for their sakes. And Abraham answered and said, Behold now, I have taken upon me to speak unto the Lord, which am but dust and ashes. Peradventure there shall lack 5 of the 50 righteous. Wilt thou destroy all the city for lack of 5? And he said, If I find there 40 and 5, I will not destroy it. And he spake unto him yet again, And he said, peradventure, there shall be 40 found there. And he said, I will not do it for 40's sake. And he said unto him, O let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak. Peradventure, there shall 30 be found there. And he said, I will not do it if I find 30 there. And he said, Behold now, I have taken upon me to speak unto the Lord. Peradventure, there shall be 20 found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 20's sake. And he said, O let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak yet but this once. Peradventure 10 shall be found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 10's sake. And the Lord went his way as soon as he had left communing with Abraham, and Abraham returned unto his place. This ends the reading portion. On to commentary. So, general overview. 3 men, quote unquote, are passing by the place of Abraham, these 3 men, and Abraham is sitting in the doorway of his tent. So one of the things about this is that a shepherd will lie in the doorstep, or in the doorway, to protect his sheep. So we see now Abraham, post-circumcised, is lying wounded inside of the door to protect his family, essentially, in what I'm understanding this. And these 3 people are passing by. He identifies them as my Lord, and he yells out that, do not pass by me. And they come to him. They speak to him about what will happen with Sarah. Sarah laughs as she's making a meal. One of the things that is interesting, we'll hit in the rabbinical commentary, is that he tells her to make cakes, but what is it that they eat? It's the butter, milk, and the calf that had been dressed. So something happened with the cakes. We'll get to that in the commentary. But so he tells his wife, hey, make them food, and this young boy, and he goes off to prepare the calf, and they dine. After dining, the Lord, or one of the individuals, says that he must tell Abraham what he's about to do to Sodom. Sodom being the 5 nations, Sodom, Gomorrah, and I'm blanking on the other 3, but there are 5 there. Sodom is just the central one. And he's gonna annihilate them if he finds that the cries are true. They're going to go down and judge the situation. But he feels it necessary to tell Abraham what he's about to do, which is important, because this is part of Abraham's land. And it would be like God saying, I love you, but I'm going to kill your kids. It's a terrible thing. Terrible, terrible thing. So he considers that and says it would be good for him to tell Abraham what he's about to do. So he does this. But then it turns into almost a court case. In this court case is Abraham trying to justify the salvation of these five cities. So we see the intention, and then the judicial procedures between the 3 and Abraham mentioning, will you do it for this? Will you do it for that? Will you do it for this? And it ends with the Lord walking away, the proper judge. So we'll get to the commentary here. Once again, there's a reason why I said what I said in the beginning of this video. I am not learned in Hebrew. This is an exploratory thing. This is for my education, and I was hoping that if you would want, that you would come along with it, because there are things that in Western culture we miss, and I use culture in the sense that there are things that they do in history that we don't do now, and we just assume things based on our present time, which is it's a logical fallacy, right? So my attempt is to try to reach back and figure out how this influenced, or the thoughts were influenced. And I probably said this multiple times, but the point that I'm saying here is that I'm not an expert in this. So please take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, in the sense that this is an exploration of what has been written. So if I disagree with something in this, or if I agree with it, it's kind of whatever. To get off that horse, though, there are nuances that I don't particularly understand. And we'll start with this very first one here. Now the Lord appeared to him in the plains of Mamre. So this appearing, it was the third day from his circumcision, and the Holy One blessed him, and he came and inquired about his welfare. In the plains of Mamre, Mamre was the one who counseled him about circumcision. So we, in at least Western Christianity, I always assumed, at least in mine, I always assumed that it was God that came to Abraham here and told him to do this thing, but he was counseled by another individual, which historically plays out, because if you look into when things played out in history, technically circumcision started with Egyptians, and they're still contesting about that. So take it for what it is. But here's just a prime example of what I'm saying. Therefore, he appeared to him, Abram, in this territory. He was sitting. It is written, that word without a vav. He wished to stand. The Holy One, blessed be he, said to him, sit, and I will stand. You will be a sign for your children that I am destined to stand in the congregation of the judges, and they will sit. As it is said, God stands in the divine assembly. Another one of those nuanced things, there's this assembly of other beings that are not the children of Israel at the entrance of the tent, to see whether there was any passerby whom he would bring into his house. Just kind of sorry to just break off so quickly from that. I just don't see much more to say. But at the entrance of the tent, this is I see it as more of shepherding of the people, like being the one that's willing to sit in the doorway, but also to observe passerbys and to bring them into the house, so hospitality. When the day was hot, the Holy One, blessed be he, took the sun out of its sheath, so as not to trouble him with wayfarers. But since he saw that he was troubled that no wayfarers were coming, he brought the angels to him in the likeness of men. Once again, not sure what this is meant to imply, but assumably something along the lines of no one was going to be walking by, so God blessed him with somebody walking by, who were the angels in the likeness of men. And he lifted his eyes and saw, and behold, 3 men were standing beside him, and he saw and ran toward them from the entrance of the tent, and he prostrated himself to the ground. Okay, so this is me not understanding all of these things, and behold, 3 men, one to bring news, one to overturn Sodom, and one to heal Abraham. For one angel does not perform 2 errands. You should know that this is true, because throughout the entire chapter, scriptures mean them in plural. So they said to him. However, one came to conversation, and he said, I will surely return to you concerning the overturning of Sodom. And it says, for I will not be able to do anything. I will not overturn. So it says, and Raphael, who healed Abraham. So this perception of angels, and one of them being Raphael, who healed Abraham, went from there to save Lot. That is what is stated. So one departs, I guess, early, assumably here, to go. But I maybe I'm misreading that, because I know that the 3 actually come to Lot together. So discount that one. I added something that's not supposed to be there, and Raphael, so when the 3 go down, they both have, or all 3 have different, tasks at hand. It is what is stated. And it came to pass when they took them outside that he, the angel, said, flee for your life. So showing that they're speaking individually, you learn that only one acted as a deliverer. So one has one job, one has another job, and so on and so forth. Or standing beside him. Before him, like Numbers 2:20, and next to him, the tribe of Manasseh, but it is a euphemism in reference to the angels. And he saw. Why is this word written twice in the verse? The first is to be understood according to its apparent meaning. And he saw, and the second means understanding. He observed that they were standing in one place, and he understood that they did not wish to burden him. And although they knew that he would come out toward them, they stood in their place out of respect for him, to show him that they did not wish to trouble him. And he went out first and ran toward them. This is the reading in an old Rashi MS and Bava Metzia at Locke. It is written standing beside him, and then it is written, and he ran toward them. When they saw that he was untying and tying his bandages, they separated from him immediately. He ran toward them. To break that down simply, I think what's being stated there is that these three individuals respected Abraham and the fact that he was wounded. They didn't want to trouble him, but they knew that he was going to come after them no matter what they did, so they just stood in respect. And he said, "My lords, only I have found favor in your eyes. Please do not pass on from beside your servant." And he said, "My lords, if only I have," etc. To the chief one, he said this. So he identified one of them as the chief of them. He called them all lords. To the chief one, he said, "Please do not pass by, because if he would not pass by, his companions would stay with him as a blessing." According to this version, this word is profane. It does not refer to God. Another explanation, it is holy. He was telling the Holy One, blessed be he, to wait for him until he would run and bring in the wayfarers, and all this. Do not pass by. So there's two ways to look at this. Either, the profane would be that it's just men, and then the other one would be the Holy One. So hard to pick apart there. And although this "do not pass by" is written after "and ran toward them," the statement to God, "do not pass by," preceded it. It is customary for the verse to speak in this manner, as I explained in reference above 6:3. "Let my spirit not quarrel forever concerning man," the decree that God would wait 120 years before bringing the flood, which was written after 532, and Noah begot. But it is impossible to say otherwise than the decree preceded the birth of Japheth by 120 years, and the two interpretations. Okay, all of that to say that this phrase here, when Abraham cried out, or he said, "My lords, if only I have found favor in your eyes, please do not pass on from beside your servant." This was stated before he began running to them. Though it follows in sequence that he ran to them and then said this, it's saying that this should actually have been said, "My lords, if only I had favor in your eyes, please do not pass on from beside your servant. Please let a little water be taken and bathe your feet and recline under the tree," happens before he runs to them, which is to state that he's saying that in one reference to God. He's saying that, do not let them pass by. "Please let a little water be taken and bathe your feet and recline under the tree." This, we could read this just completely practically, especially in our modern sense, I guess, if you want to call it that. It's hot, so let them drink, bathe their feet, because they've been, walking through dirt. So this is a customary, an honorable thing, and then recline under the tree to be cooled. So very practical, right? Well, please let, and then be taken through a messenger, and the Holy One, blessed be he, rewarded Abraham's children through a messenger, as it is written, and Moses raised his hand and struck the rock. So there's a messenger that's coming. Please let and be taken is kind of the assumably how he's pulling this out. But here's the kicker, and took me quite some time to really parse this one out. And that's why the disclaimer at the beginning. He thought that they were Arabs who prostrate themselves to the dust of their feet, and they were strict not to allow any idolatry in this house. But Lot, who is not strict, mentioned lodging before washing, as it is said, and lodge and bathe your feet. All right. If you're watching, I'm sure you noticed that there's quite a few tabs that I've opened up. I looked into, I guess, a forum at one point. I think it was like stock exchange or something. And I finally found kind of a link to this bathing of your feet. And it comes to a place called Çatalhöyük, which is it's an excavation or a location in Turkey. And there is what's considered a mother goddess of the culture at that time. It doesn't specifically have a name because if you look at all of the cultures that, where did it go? There was a listing of all the ones. Oh, here it is. There's a listing of all the mother goddesses of each individual religion, right? Even technically, even Christianity per se, not at large, has a quote-unquote mother goddess, and that would be Mary in some aspects. Very careful to say that, and I'm sure it's similar for some of these as well. Like, some would say, well, no, it's not technically a mother goddess, and that's the point, right? But in Egyptian, Hathor, Isis, Mut, Nut, you see all the way down even into the Greek, which is Demeter, Gaia. You have the Roman, Slavic, Oceanic, even in the Americas, probably butcher this, but Chehuaquatl, I would assume, which is probably close to Quetzalcoatl, in Aztec mythology. However, aside from that, the linkage apparently is that this mother goddess was found. There was, 200 some odd idols, and there were a majority of them, these female portrayals of this mother goddess. One of the iconic, if you're watching, is this seated goddess flanked by two lionesses. Apparently within that, there's a concept that the dirt is linked to the being of this mother goddess. Like, think Mother Earth, right? That the earth itself, the dirt, is this holy thing. This is one way to read this, and I also found that it links, to some more of this cultural idea. So the Gemara continues its analysis of the verse, "Let now a little water be fetched and wash your feet," referring to what we're reading. Rabbi Yanai, son of Rabbi Ishmael, said that the guests said to Abraham, "Are you suspicious that we are Arabs who bow to the dust of their feet?" Yishmael has already issued from him, i.e. your own son acts in this manner. So this is reference to this verse here, and bathe your feet. Like I said, we could just completely take this as a practical hospitality thing. We could also take it as they worship the dirt of their feet. There's another thing that can be looked into, is that Abraham, they walked in areas that were unclean, therefore their feet were unclean for the household. Meaning they walked in land of idols, and therefore walking into the household, they should be to be bathed. Another concept would be that because the household is a holy place, meaning separate from outside, that the feet should be cleaned prior to, like it is mentioned with Lot here, who was not strict, mentioned lodging before washing. So here's a moment possibly that, bathing yourself, or at least washing your dirty feet, kind of like taking your shoes off when entering somebody else's house, is a respect to Abraham's household, right? But there's also one other issue here, and it kind of took me a little bit to figure this out on how he came to this conclusion. He thought that they were Arabs here, which is in this this commentary from this Rabbi Yanni and Ishmael. He was suspicious of them, is one way to read this as well. And there's an exchange that isn't found with inside of our Western writings, right? There's an exchange here that is something along the lines of like, who do you think we are? Like, do you think that we are that kind of conversation that goes on behind the scenes? This is why I say that I'm not an expert. I'm just trying to figure out exactly, what's going on in the scripture and what, others think of this, especially those that we are a branch of. Under the tree would be, can mean either tree or detached wood, clarifies this ambiguity by translating an aram, meaning specifically a tree. So it could be described, but there's, I guess it's like an idiom, but it's defined as a tree instead of like a hanging of wood. Now, we get into the sustainment of the heart with this. So, and I will take a morsel of bread and sustain your hearts. Afterwards you shall pass on, because you have passed by your servant. And they said, so shall you do as you have spoken. Let's look at chapter 5 or verse 5. And I will fetch a morsel of bread and comfort ye your hearts. After that ye shall pass on there, for you come to your servants. Okay, so it does say that. In this, in the Torah and the prophets, and in this hagiographa, I'm not familiar with that, but we find that the bread is a sustenance of the heart. In the Torah, and sustains your heart. In the prophets, sustain your heart with a morsel of bread. In the hagiographa, 104:15, and bread sustains man's heart. So we see this, but these two words, or this word is not written here, but this word in Hebrew, this teaches us that the evil inclination does not rule over the angels. So they are angels who he is speaking to because of this word exchange, right? These, I kind of looked it up, I believe, and faint, tender-hearted versus to make them cry. These two, like tenderheartedness, and to make them cry. I guess this here is supposed to say that they don't have the human inclination of doing evil. So the bread is not necessary, is one way we can look at this. There's another form we'll see later. Afterwards, you shall pass on. So afterwards, you shall go after you have eaten, because you have passed by, for I request this from you. So he requested that they stay because you have passed by me, have stopped in my house to honor me. So you came in and honored me by being guests in my house. This is just the word here was exchanged, I guess, is a different word, but it still means because. So when we read it, because you have passed, there's two different words here, but the word that is used is because the following verses use it as well. And Abraham hastened to the tent to Sarah, and he said, hasten 3 seah of meal and fine flour, knead and make cakes. So the fine flour for the cakes and the meal for the starch used by cooks to cover the pot to draw out the scum. And to the cattle did Abraham run, and took a calf tender and good, and he gave it to the youth, and he hastened to prepare it. So here we see there were 3 calves in order to feed them 3 tongues with mustard. So this is something I didn't research into that, but I guess there is a way to see that instead of just saying there was 1, there was technically 3, and he had 3 tongues of mustard on them. So to the youth, this was in reference to Ishmael, to train him to perform a mitzvah. This here, it means good deed. So I'm not going to get into like the deep understanding of this, because I don't understand it fully, but essentially he's training this youth, whoever, whether it be Ishmael or not, to do a good deed in the active. So it moves on, and he took cream and milk and the calf that he had prepared, and he placed them before them, and he was standing over them under the tree, and they ate. So there's a bunch of, standing up, sitting down, standing up, sitting down, but and he took cream and milk, but he did not bring bread, because Sarah became menstruous, for the manner of women returned to her on that day, and the dough became ritually unclean. This is another form, like I said, them not eating the bread could be in reference to them not having the tendency of evil within inside of them, or we could read it as, in my understanding, maybe it's both, maybe it's, I'm misunderstanding this, but there's Sarah who now is being promised by the Lord, and this is kind of the telltale sign that you are fertile begins, which makes it so that they do not eat the bread, because that's missing here when they eat. Cream, the fat of the milk that is skinned off the top, and the calf that he had prepared, each one that he had prepared, he took and brought before them, and they ate. They appeared to be eating. From here, we learn that a person should not deviate from custom. A large portion of this is going to be customary tradition. Honor individuals that come into your house. Honor a person's house that you're coming into. Back and forth. Because it's going to say, and they said to him, "Where is Sarah, your wife?" And he said, "Behold, in the tent." And they said to him, there are dots over the letters in the word, and we learned Rabbi Simeon, the son of the Eleazar, says, "Wherever the undotted letters are more than the dotted ones, you must expound on the undotted letters, etc. And here the dotted letters are more than the undotted letters, you must expound on the dotted letters." This is something that in English we really don't have, is annotation of where the emphasis is in the sentence. Excuse me. The meaning is that they also asked Sarah, "Where is Abraham?" We learn that a person should ask in his lodging place of the husband about the wife, and of the wife about the husband. In Bava Mitzia, it is said, "The ministering angels knew where our mother Sarah was, but they asked in order to make known that she was modest in order to endear her to her husband," said Rabbi Joseph, the son of Chanina, "in order to send her a cup of blessing." Either way, it's a respect for those coming to a house. How is your wife? How is your husband? We're not asking to be, rooting around your business. We're asking in courteousness, how are they? Behold in the tent. So this is to say she is modest in these writings here. Excuse me. So, and we're in verse 10 here, and he said, "I will surely return to you at this time next year, and behold, your wife Sarah will have son." And Sarah heard from the entrance of the tent, and it was behind him. At this time next year, apparently this is in reference to Passover. So they are in time of Passover, which is incredibly interesting because of what they go down and do in Sodom and what happens in Egypt. I guess, there's good connectivity here. There's good tendons between the two stories, which lends credence to this. It was Passover, and on the following Passover, Isaac was born, which is the first son of Abraham, technically by Sarah, right? All that to say is that this is a foreshadowing, possibly, or maybe a reminderance of Passover in Egypt to this moment, that God blessed the people by allowing Sarah to have children so that they could come about. I will surely return. The angel did not announce that he himself would return, but he was speaking to him as an emissary of the omnipresent. Similar above 16:10, and the angel said to her, I will greatly multiply your seed. But he, the angel, did not have the power to multiply your seed, but he spoke as an emissary of the omnipresent. Here too, it was an emissary of the omnipresent that he said this to him. Elisha said to the Shunammite woman, in 2 Kings 4:16, at this season, at this time next year, you will be embracing a son. And she said, no, my lord, O man of God, do not fail your maidservant. Those angels who announced to Sarah said, at the appointed time I will return. But Elisha did not promise to return. Elisha replied, those angels who live and endure forever said at the appointed time, I will return, but I am flesh and blood, alive today and dead tomorrow. Whether I shall be alive or dead at this time, etc., you will embrace a son. A lot to say for this just resembling angels instead of the omnipresent, but as emissaries of God. And the entrance, so the way that I can perceive this in my head, is that Abraham is standing with them at this tree, and the tree is faced in such a manner that the angels are not peering towards the tent. And Sarah is coming through the doorway. Now, Abraham and Sarah were old, coming on in years. They're 100 years old, roughly. Sarah had ceased to have the way of women, so she did not have her menstrual cycle, which leads credence to the whole bread portion earlier on. And so she laughed within herself, saying, after I have become worn out, will I have smooth flesh? And also my master is old. Within herself, she looked at her like she had retrospect inside of herself and said, is it possible that these insides will carry a child, that these breasts which have dried up will give forth milk? Rational, argument. But this carnal thing that, who am I to have a kid at this age? And then the smooth flesh, I guess, is more smoothness of flesh, and in the language of the Mishnah, it causes the hair to fall out and smooths the flesh. Another explanation, an expiration of time, the time of the menstrual period. So there's one way to, say that the skin becomes soft and smooth, but then it's also it could also be in reference to, the cycle. And the Lord said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh, saying, is it really true that I will give birth although I am old? Is it really true? Is it really true that I will give birth? I'm not sure what the double portion of this is, but although I am old. Scripture altered her statement, apparently, for the sake of peace, for she had said, and my master is old. So here, this is where, King James Version, I gotta remember, 13, says it. Shall I of surety bear a child, which I am old? Oh, I thought it said my Lord is old somewhere. Well, I guess, after I have waxed old shall I have pleasure, my Lord, being old also. Yeah, so there's a shift there. So, maybe I was reading the wrong one. Yeah, okay, so in the King James here, shall I of surety bear child, which I am old, but therefore Sarah laughed within herself. So the way that it's phrased is slightly backwards, I guess. No. Yeah, this has got me all confused now. Anyways, in this, it's simply saying that was supposed to be at the end, while she's speaking out, or while it was being said, so it wasn't disrespectful. Another trope of this entire chapter here is the honor and respect inside of a household with guest. Is anything hidden from the Lord at the appointed time? I will return to you at this time next year, and Sarah will have a son. Is hidden. Is anything too hidden, separated, and concealed from me to prevent me from doing my will? At the appointed time, at that time that was appointed that I set for you yesterday, when I said, at this time next year. And Sarah denied, saying, I did not laugh because she was afraid. And he said, no, but you laughed. This is just confirming the fact that she was afraid to say the truth in front of the angel. And he said, it is not as you say, but you did laugh. For sages say that this word has 4 different meanings: if, perhaps, but, and because. It's just ensuring that this sentence is properly formatted grammatically. And the men arose from there, and they looked upon Sodom, and Abraham went with them to escort them. Okay, another one of those strange ones that we don't see. This word looked, 16 here. Shakaf does mean to overlook, look down or out, overhang, look out and down, with a nafal to lean over and look down, the hifil to look down upon. However, here it says, whenever this word is there, occurs in Scripture, it denotes evil, except in Deuteronomy 26:15, look from your holy dwelling, for the power of gifts to the poor is so great that it converts the divine attribute of wealth to mercy. This is an interesting piece because, it's denoting looking upon the evil of Sodom. You can kind of imply it by the chapter, reading the chapter, but if we just strictly looked at this verse, it would kind of miss out on that, this word denoting, looked out over evil upon, Sodom, and then to escort them. So Abraham went with them to escort them. He thought that they were wayfarers, referring back to him thinking that they were Arabs of the time. And the Lord said, shall I conceal from Abraham what I am doing? This is a question. So this whole, obviously, we're presented with it being a question. What am I doing? So, like I said before, this is a respect thing towards Abraham. In Sodom, what am I doing? In Sodom, it would be improper for me to do this thing without his knowledge, meaning Abraham's knowledge. I gave him this land, and these 5 cities are his, as it is said, and the border of the Canaanite was from Sidon, as you come to Sodom and Gomorrah, etc. I called him Abraham, the father of a multitude of nations. Now can I destroy the sons without informing the Father who loves me? So we see here, a respect for Abraham. And Abraham will become a great and powerful nation, and all the nations of the world will be blessed in him. And Abraham will become, according to the Midrash Haggadah, Proverbs 10:7, the mention of righteous man is for a blessing. Since he mentioned him, he blessed him. Its simple meaning is, however, shall I conceal this from him? He is so dear to me as to become a great nation, and through him will be blessed all the nations. I'm just going to move right into the next one because it bleeds in. So I have known him because he commands his sons and his household after him that they should keep the way of the Lord to perform righteousness and justice in order that the Lord bring upon Abraham that which he spoke concerning him. For I have known him. I personally find this extremely important. Maybe that gives a little bit of an opening of my biases in reading, but this expression of love. So he loves Abraham, like Ruth who won a kinsman of her husband, and now Boaz our kinsman, Exodus 33:17, and I shall know you by name. But, in fact, the primary meaning of them all is none other than an expression of knowing, for if one loves a person, he draws him near to himself and knows him and is familiar with him. Now, why do I love him? Because he commands his sons concerning me to keep my ways. But if he explains it as the Targum renders, I know about him that he will command his sons, etc., the word does not fit into the sense. All of that to say this. In the end, what does the Lord say to those, at least in the Christian faith, that will not be in the kingdom? Depart from me, for I never knew you. I think that this is extremely important for I know this might sound counterintuitive. It's like, well, God knows everything. It's like, yes, I agree with that. But to come to know someone, to want to be in union with this person, and I mean to know the individual as a person, to become familiar with each other, like as a good friend would be, or a son to a father. If a son just departs and never speaks to his father, the father doesn't know him. He knows of him, he knows him, but not in a personal sense of a son and a father, right? It just becomes almost foreign to the father. Not doing a great justice to this, but I personally think that this is saying that God knows him well as a person. Because he commands a pretense, so would Job. In accordance to the utterance of the Lord, they would camp. This is in reference as a habitual action of keeping righteousness and justice in the household, in order that the Lord bring, so would he command his sons, keep the way of the Lord, in order that the Lord bring upon Abram, etc. It does not say upon the house of Abraham, but upon Abraham. Yeah, well, and if we consider that the Lord is now judging part of the land in which people are in, technically Abraham's kingdom, we see that, the Lord is going to judge a portion of that has turned away. The Lord said, since the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah has become great, and since their sin has become very grave, like I said, he's coming to judge. And the Lord said to Abraham, for he did as he had said, that he would not conceal from him. So he's telling him what's going to happen, since it has become great. Wherever this word appears in Scripture, the accent is on the last syllable, on the beth, because they are translated great or becoming great, but this one has its accent on the first syllable, on the resh, because it is translated as has already become great. So come into this place of they have already done this. It's not a state in which they are becoming. As I have explained in regards above in chapters 15, 17, now it came to pass that the sun had set. Ruth 1:15, lo, your sister-in-law has returned. It is come to an end. I will descend now and see whether according to her cry, which has come to me, they have done. I will wreak destruction upon them, and if not, I will know. Okay, so getting long. Okay, I will descend now. This teaches judges that they should not decide capital punishment cases unless they see it. This is taught a little bit earlier. If you've watched the series all the way through, there are moments, this descending of the Lord is to show that we should not judge without seeing the thing. Evaluating what has happened. We can't just come to a conclusion by our own. This is to assume that we need to ensure that we're not making assumptions without just cause. Everything is as explained in the chapter dealing with the dispersion. So there's another explanation. I will descend to the ends of their deeds. So he will judge according to all of their deeds. I could see both here in this instance. Whether according to her cry, this is in regards to the land, what is happening to the land, which are early. From the very beginning, one of the taskers of the Lord is to take care of the land that He has created, because He loves it. He cherishes the things that He creates. Which has come to me, they have done. And if they remain in the state of rebellion, I will wreak destruction upon them. But if they do not remain in their state of rebellion, I will know what I will do to punish them with suffering, but I will not destroy them. Similar to this, we find elsewhere, Exodus 33:5, but now leave off your ornament from yourself, so that I may know what to do to you. Therefore, there is a pause marked by the cantillation sign between these words, in order to separate one word from another. Our sages, however, interpreted this word, or this combination of words, to refer to the cry of a certain girl whom they killed with an unusual death because she gave food to a poor man, as is delineated in the chapter Chelek, Psalm 109b. This is another writing. So two different ways. not so sure on the story of the certain goal. It's very interesting, but I lean on this concept that he's going down to find out if they'll change their ways. This is a common trope. Will they change from their ways? Maybe another moment, because this video has going too long already. Starts to ask the question if things are just completely fated to be, or destined to be, either or. There is a chance for salvation, to not be destroyed. Yes, there will be punishment, but not utter destruction. So we'll move from there. And the men turned from there and went to Sodom, and Abraham was still standing before the Lord. So he's putting himself before the Lord, according to Sodom and everything. And so the judgment begins. So Abraham approached and said, in 23, and Abraham approached and said, will you even destroy the righteous with the wicked? So it begins the court case. We find the expression approach for war, 2 Samuel 10:13, and Joab drew forward, etc., and approaching for placating, and Judah approached him, and approaching for prayer, and Elijah the prophet came near. For all of these, Abraham approached to speak harshly when he requested justice to placate and to pray. In my understanding here, this is almost like when we pray in front of someone who's going to go through a judgment, right? Will you even destroy? So will you also destroy? And according to the translation of the Onkelos, who rendered this as an expression of wrath, this is its interpretation. Will wrath entice you that you should destroy the righteous with the wicked? Are you so angry that you're going to destroy everything? Mayhaps, peradventure, there are 50 righteous men in the midst of the city. And this continues. So I'm going to kind of, you know the sequence now. It's 50, and then he goes 45, 40. But I'm just going to hit the notes here since we're getting long. Perhaps there are 50 righteous men, 10 righteous men for each city. So there's a point to the 50 and why he goes 45, then 40, and then 30, and all the way down. Far be it from you. So, and if you say that the righteous will not save the wicked, you should. Why should you kill the righteous? Argument placed. Far be it from you it's a statement because it's unfitting. As an example for you, they will say, "So is his craft. He inundates everyone, righteous and wicked. So you did the generation of the flood and to the generation of the dispersion." So Abram's kind of making a statement along the lines of like, will others look at you and say, you treat the wicked and the just the same, or the righteous the same? A thing such as this, neither this nor anything similar to. Far be it from you, for the world to come. Will the judge of the entire earth, is vowelized with a shetaf patach, an expression of wonder. Will he who judges not perform true justice? So that's kind of the argument. Are you gonna treat the wicked the same as the righteous? Is the question that's being asked here. And the Lord said, if I find in Sodom 50 righteous men within the city, I will forgive the entire place for their sake. So we see here Abraham standing in a place where judgment is about to come, and Abraham is arguing for the salvation of people. Okay? And if I find in Sodom the entire place, all the cities, but because Sodom was the metropolis and the most important of them all, the scriptures ascribed the 50 righteous men to it. And Abraham answered and said, behold, now I have commenced to speak to the Lord, although I am dust and ash. It took me a second because it says, although I'm dust and ash, I was already fit to be dust at the hands of the kings and ashes at the hands of Nimrod. Earlier story that was kind of underlining. It's not in the scripture, but it's referenced that Nimrod put Abraham into a furnace to kill him for judgment, and yet he survived. Now, somebody else didn't, but go back and listen to that. Were it not for your mercies that stood by me, I have commenced. I am willing, and Moses is consented. Will you destroy because of 5? Will there not be 9 for each city? So now he's counting down, kind of. Perhaps 40 will be found, and 4 cities will be saved, and so 30 will save 3 of them, or 20 will save 2 of them, or 10 will save 1 of them. Behold, now I have desired. Moses was willing, so the continuation of the argument. Finally, this last bit, 32. Please let the Lord's wrath not be kindled, and I will speak yet this time. Perhaps 10 will be found there. And he said, I will not destroy for the sake of 10. Because fewer than 10, there were only 8 in the generation of the flood that were saved, Noah and his sons and their wives. But that did not save the generation. And for 9, together with counting God, he had already asked, but did not find. So, and the Lord departed when he finished speaking to Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. So the judge left, the defender left, and the prosecutor is accusing. Therefore, and the 2 angels came to Sodom to destroy, one to destroy Sodom and one to save Lot, and so forth. That's a lot in that one, so I'm going to close up quickly. Thank you so much for listening in, and I hope to see you next time. Hope this blesses you.